I don't need that. Thank you very much. You have a minute to take your breath. So I think the audience will do that as well. Let me briefly introduce the rest of our panel, and then let's get rolling. We start with T.Yaverbaun. Tracy is, please come up. Tracy is the head of brand development at Instagram. Please take a seat over there. While Tracy is getting settled, let me just check one thing. Could I show hands here? Who is actually using Instagram in the audience? 40, 50%, something like that. So thank you. Second, G.Vogelsang, Managing Director of C3. This is a leading content marketing agency, partly owned by Burda Group. Welcome, Gregor. And last not least, A.Panconesi. Andrea is the CEO of Luisa Via Roma, a luxury online platform that is originating from a physical store in Florence and is now conquering the world as an online platform. Again, here I would be interested to get a sense for the group. Who is actually buying luxury online here? Now, the ladies, hands down. Who of the men are buying online? Okay, interesting. Interesting. Thank you very much. Small proportions, 50% of the women, 20% of the men buying online. I think a brief sense of the group. Andrea, maybe we start with Luisa Via Roma. Can you explain a bit to us what Luisa Via Roma is, how you're working, and how you differentiate yourself from other online platforms?
Well, it is nothing to do with what we heard before. I mean, my company is a private company. It's 3 generations, business in fashion. And we started this adventure in the e-commerce in 1999, just by chance, because we wanted to fulfill the needs of our foreign clients that were coming from Germany, from US, from UK, to visit us in Florence. Once a year, we wanted to follow them during the whole year. So with the web, we thought that could be easier. And in fact, in 10 years' time, that's what I have done. I concentrated myself on the e-commerce, and we did more in the last 5 years than we did in 3 generations.
Can you give us a sense of the size of Luisa Via Roma, how you have been growing and what size you have today?
Right. Now we practically ship all over the world. We ship 150 countries, 50 countries in free shipping and free return. Germany included, of course, the whole Europe, as a matter of fact, as well as US and China and other countries. We have 150 to 200,000 visitors per day. And that's, you can understand the difference from a small shop with a window in Via Roma in Florence to a window on the world. It's a dramatic change. And so, that's it.
Very good. Gregor, could you define digital for us? How do you see digital?
Well, the digital... sorry.
Gregor.
You want to go?
No.
Please.
You go ahead.
Well, we look at digital from an individual, personal perspective. And if you look at this way at digital, it's basically 3 things. Either I search for information, or I want to buy and sell something, so I do a commercial transaction, or I'm in a conversation. And a conversation, that's where we, C3, come in, because every conversation needs meaningful content. It starts with meaningful content, and it ends with content. It needs relevant, well-targeted content, and at C3, that's what we do. We help brands establish a meaningful conversation with consumers and customers based on content.
And the content you're offering, is that entirely digital content, or?
No, we do this online and offline, really both. And that's why, as a company, we have content skills, creative skills, but also production and coding skills, in our house.
Tracy, what is Instagram doing in digital luxury?
That's an interesting question because we don't really think of ourselves as a digital company. We're exclusively mobile. We're an application that sits on people's devices. So we don't think of these two worlds, of this digital world and offline world. Most people are both and have their phones with them all the time. So that's how we think of ourselves. And in terms of luxury, you know, for luxury brands, there's the opportunity to engage and communicate with people when they're in a very receptive mode. So people tend to dip it in and out of Instagram when they're looking for inspiration or sharing things that really matter to them. So at any point in the day, a luxury brand can connect with someone when they're in that mode and when they're receptive to those type of messages, which is, I think, why the luxury community have really jumped into Instagram, because people are in that mode of inspiration, and it's what they've been doing really amazingly well for years, which is inspiring people, you know, and telling a visual story, taking people on a journey, and now they can do it when people have their devices with them at all times. So I think that's what we're seeing happening. It's still very new for us, but we think it's amazing the way they're embracing the platform.
What are other areas that are using Instagram strongly? I mean, I understand luxury, there's a lot of emotion. Which other emotional areas do you have on Instagram?
I mean, there are a number of active segments. I mean, food is huge. I think everybody in this audience must have seen at some stage someone standing over their coffee trying to get the perfect shot or Instagram their breakfast. So food is huge. You know, a lot of people, travel is really, really an inspirational topic. So people sharing images of not only places that they are or they've been, but they really want to go to that inspires them. Cycling, coffee. People geek out a lot around coffee on Instagram. People sharing pictures of their families or any passion point that they have that helps them express their lives. So there's a ton of access segments, fashion obviously being one of them because it's so inspirational. But yeah, you know, you name the topic. I mean, I'm a big skier. Like my feed at the moment is just full of all of these brands and people that I follow. So it depends on what your passion is, and we're seeing all of these really interesting segments pop up. But fashion is probably one of the first and the most emerging.
Very good. Now, what's the age bias that you have on Instagram? Is there a specific target group that is using Instagram more than others?
So as the platform grows, we're seeing that audience change quite a lot. I mean, like any new technology, you see kind of a younger audience adapting it first, and then it grows. So we tend to map to kind of the internet mobile population, skewing slightly younger in some markets right now because it's still new in a lot of markets. But you know, as we grow, and it looks very different.
Scott, why is digital so important for luxury brands? If we look at the sales that are currently done on luxury brands on a global scale, this is less than 5%. Mm-hmm. So yep. Where's the connection coming from? Why is it relevant?
The biggest mistake managers make is they size their digital investment to the size of their e-commerce investment. So if they have $1 billion business, they cite the statistics you just cited, and they say this is a $50 million to $100 million business, so I'm going to invest this much in CapEx and human capital. Not recognizing the place you get return on your digital investment is in your stores. The fastest way to grow in-store sales is to grow your e-commerce business. The fastest way to grow your e-commerce business is to do a better job in stores. It's a multi-channel future. Think of digital as electricity. You don't have a digital strategy the same way you don't have an electric strategy. You need to have a multi-channel strategy, and you need to think about how e-commerce and digital drive people to bricks and then back to clicks again.
And Andrea.
And if I may add, there is a big difference between e-commerce, which is run by a multi-brand company like us, and e-commerce which is run by a mono-brand itself. Like the typical customer that use e-commerce to buy a garment or anything else. It's a person who knows exactly what they want, and they want it fast and clear and clean in a fastest way. You know, our clients, they buy in 5 to 10 minutes, and they want to buy men's, women's, children, maybe something for the house, and under the same roof. They don't want to go to 10 different brands or to 10 different e-commerce to buy, because they don't have time. If they have time to spend, if they want to go for a different experience, then they go to the store. But if they buy on the web, they want to find everything in the same site. And to run an e-commerce with 500 different top designers like we do, it's very, very difficult, and it's very, very different from running an e-commerce for one only brand. It's the same difference. It exists in brick and mortar to run a store, multi-brand store, specialty store, and to run a department store. Department store is like having many different designers, each separate from each other. Multi-brand or specialty store is to mix and match different designers under the same roof. It's the same thing on web. It's totally different business. That's why we have only maybe 10 players in the world that are competitors in the top-level luxury fashion business online.
Let's explore a bit how this marketing media approaches online and offline are actually getting together. Gregor, can you share a bit the successful campaigns, the tricks how to combine online and offline?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I think we're also on the same page here that especially in luxury and high-end fashion, there is still offline and online. There is no pure play. So offline, online play an important role, and combining offline and online is playing an important role. That's why we see also online brands moving offline with, say, content assets, like ASOS doing a magazine, Zalando is doing a magazine, Net-a-Porter is doing a magazine. So luxury and fashion always requires an offline presence for consumers to touch it, to feel it, to experience it. So there's always a relevance for offline presence for luxury and fashion brands. And that's what we see always when we work with our customers at C3. So if you look at Swarovski and their Crystal Society, we do a magazine for them. It's 27 languages. They run significant efforts and expenses to have this physical presence in households and with consumers. At the same time, what they do is they link it with the online presence. And in our view, at least, what's the missing link is content. Content, in a sense, is sticky. And content, in a sense, is the new glue in digital. And it's also the new glue for brands to create conversations with consumers. What brands often haven't realized yet is that they need to move away from that channel perspective and really move towards a content perspective, because it's content that travels with individuals, like in the old times. And if I'm telling an inspiring story and I'm successful in making consumers take my story to their network, share it with their networks, take it with them on their journey, then I'm really running a very good content marketing campaign. And that's, in our view, best practice type of marketing campaigns. We do that for Deutsche Telekom with Electronic Beats, where we really just have one single digital presence, but a huge network around this digital presence of bloggers and fans and musicians who take the message of Electronic Beats and Deutsche Telekom into the digital universe. And in that sense, also, content marketing is very different from campaigning. We obviously talk about native advertising as a bit of a hybrid between content marketing and campaigning. But content marketing is not like a big bang campaign. What it creates is a thermal cycle for a brand, Because it starts with, let's say, a very small drop, and it's basically expanding the presence of the brand in digital and or also in print.
Tracy, would you agree that with your representation of Instagram so as a hot online media, that we will need offline media going forward to convey that content?
Yeah, I mean, people are both, right? So you need to be where your consumers are, and it's as simple as that, really. Any brand that's doing one over the other are missing out on opportunities to connect with their customers or potential new customers.
And what are best practices that you have seen today, sort of with Instagram potentially, or where you're going with Instagram to connect online and offline?
I mean, it's super early for us. You know, as a business, we haven't even been monetizing for a year. We just launched in Europe. But I think best practice is where you see brands really carving out what their visual identity is and communicating that in a way that inspires people. So that's the first thing, or using that to then reach more people, whether it's through ads or video. We've seen some great examples in the fashion luxury space, just even past Fashion Week. Brands, obviously the usual suspects like Burberry, using new products from Instagram like Hyperlapse to time-lapse down what is a 15-minute show into 15 seconds, so people can experience that. Hunter Boots used Instagram and one of our platform partners to deliver real-time snippets of their show or some of the key looks they wanted to get out there. And we saw the same from another fashion brands, really using some of our new products and technology to deliver snippets and snack-size highlights to their consumers and reach. And then what you have is the more traditional press picks up on this. So when you look at the pages of Elle and Vogue, it's celebrities or brands' Instagram shots from the show, and if you're following them on Instagram, you're getting that immediately in your feed.
I think what's also important is the question, how do I interpret offline presence or a physical presence? And again, brands, especially luxury fashion, of course retail, they all think in real estate is an offline presence. But in fact, if you look at things like ASOS, etc., obviously they use magazines, but they also use things like street style photos, yeah, to drive people to their online shop. And actually a person, yeah, that is making that street style photo and is posting it on ASOS is a physical presence, if you want, an extension of the online shop in the physical world. So I think also if you look into this offline-online thing, you really need to start looking differently at offline presence from an online perspective. Yeah? And how can you actually drive consumers to an online presence or to your shop, also using very different physical offline presences. Again, in our view, using content as the major sort of lead. Every content piece that you send out there is a lead. It's a lead generation tool. Because it's a story, it's something that connects your brand with consumers and leads consumers to either share, interact, or go to your shop and buy. And that's kind of the paradigm shift that we see in marketing. The old marketing paradigm is you have a brand, you send a message, that message is sort of creating pull, and then people come to the brand and buy. But this is different today because people don't necessarily care about brand messages. They care about their lifestyles and they care about relevant content in those lifestyles. And only via those contents do they actually come to a brand and then probably also to buying a product. So it's actually a complete turnaround of the marketing paradigm that we see with content marketing, digital especially.
Andrea, you were nodding. It looks like agreement. Can you tell us about your most successful marketing campaigns? How do they look like? What are you combining when you invest in order to market Luisa Via Roma?
While we were having this conversation, I was thinking of our experience, how we did start this experience online. You know, it was in 1999, and it was really the beginning. And if you think about it, Google was only in his beta stage, and Facebook had 5 years more to come. They just arrived in the year 2005 on the market. So we are talking about the prehistory. And I remember the thing I wanted to do is to, first of all, to make our physical clients, visitors of the store or the physical store, aware that we are starting this adventure online. So the first thing we've done, it was to put in the store this touch screen where the sales people were helping the clients to order online on the internet from our stockroom the pieces they physically see in the store. And the trick was that we only put one size per item, per model in the store. So it's to try your own size, you had to order it on the web. And this was the trick, to teach our clients how to use the web once they were gone and once they were at home. And the reality is that some of our clients, they only buy through our website because we teach them how to do it, even now. So that is a history. Now the biggest effort in terms of marketing and the biggest effort in terms of even economic that we do, it's what we call Firenze Forever. And it is a convention, it's a summit where we invite twice a year all our friends, the bloggers, the magazine, the web magazine, to join us in the beginning of the fashion season. You know, the fashion doesn't go by year, it goes by season. You know, it's spring, summer, and autumn, winter. So in the beginning of the spring, summer, and in the beginning of the autumn, winter, we invite them all to see the whole store, the physical store, all decorated with the new collections, and we invite them to do an editorial. We provide photographers, models, hairdresser, whatever they need, locations, in order for them to do a professional editorial. So after, when they go back, they can post it on their web, on their magazines, and we only ask for the credit, mention the fact that they've done it in Florence. And this year we added, we did the 10th edition of it, and we celebrated with a big party, and we celebrated also with the opening of a small fashion and technology summit, because I wanted these people that we invite to meet the technology company that helped us in these 10 years of activity online to achieve these results. And that was the first time we've done it, and we will do it again in June. That's it.
It's nice to hear, sort of looking back, sort of what was possible in '99. But let's think again. So this is only the beginning. I speak specifically for digital and luxury. We only start here. And on the one hand side, we heard you, Scott, saying pure play is dead. On the other side, I mean, we have luxury companies today that are still investing heavily in new shops, in flagship stores, in physical assets. How does that fit together? Sort of, how will that evolve? So are luxury companies today investing in the right assets?
So if the question is, should you have fantastic stores with great customer service and great content, or should you have a fantastic website that has robust e-commerce, CRM? The answer is yes. And the companies that are showing the greatest return on investor capital are the ones that have best multi-channel, whether it's Macy's or Gucci does a fantastic job. You talk about digital IQ and luxury. The reality, and we've run the digital IQ of almost conceivably every luxury brand in the world, with the exception of some of yours, sir. I'm not familiar specifically with your brands, but the sad truth is, once you move out, you get more than a bike ride away from a world-class engineering university, a fantastic VC ecosystem that funds young startups to provide great innovation at a lower cost funded by those VCs, and you move into a public markets environment where there's pressure to do things, to open e-commerce. digital IQ falls off a map. The further you get away from Seoul, San Francisco, New York, and London, your digital IQ dives. In luxury, as you go into continental Europe, luxury digital looks as if it's owned by a group of people who are just still hoping the internet's going to go away. Prada has terrible digital IQ. Unbelievable innovator, fantastic stores, innovator around fabrics. Their site stays perfectly static the last 2 weeks in August. There's no changes to the site, and I'm convinced it's because that's when Luciano Prada goes on vacation. Hermes has a terrible digital site. Imagine the shareholder value these extraordinary companies are leaving on the table with really weak digital. And then you have people taking that market cap away from them. Tory Burch, Kate Spade, punching above their weight class, ready to grab that lack of innovation because they delude themselves that the sprocket of Chinese consumers coming in and buying 50% of all watches and luxury in Europe is going to last forever. And then when it goes away, these terrible department stores like Printemps or Bon Marché in France that have awful digital are going to wake up and realize they're retailers with terrible digital and not ready for the future. Sorry, I got on a rant again.
But I fully agree. For example, Tory is a wonderful example where within 9 years, building a nearly $1 billion brand and not spending a single dollar on advertising, doing everything through her blog. The first time now she starts advertising with going into fragrances because the license partner is actually advertising.
But just a quick footnote, the highest digital IQ brands you typically find are also in print. Because just as multi-channel pays off in retail, multi-channel pays off in media. I think the most innovative luxury marketing campaign of 2013 was L'Odyssée de Cartier by the watch company. A lot of print, some TV, coordinated their social media and their e-commerce channels. Print's not going anywhere. It's obviously just losing some dollars to you guys, but it's still, we absorb imagery 50 times faster than words. That's why print is so powerful, and that's why Instagram is so powerful. But you're not going to see luxury brands exit print for a long time.
I'll open up the floor for questions in a second, so if you think about it. But before Tracy, just one question. What can we expect from Instagram? What are the innovations that you're providing for luxury companies in the next 12, 18 months?
Next 12 to 18 months, you'll see us launching advertising products in new markets in Europe, particularly in the next half. And the continual innovation of what those products look like. So the broad introduction of videos, so to being able to buy some video ad units on the platform in new markets in Europe, innovation around the ads themselves. Just before Christmas, we launched 6 new filters. So you'll see a lot of the innovation within the product itself, which brands, luxury brands particularly, are always first to get involved with and try and experiment with. I'll also I kind of predict that we'll see a lot more of our platform partners working closely with brands to take the essence of Instagram off of Instagram, whether that be in store, at their live events like shows, or on their own website as well.
Very good. So let me open up here, gentleman over here, then please. No, here.
Okay, thanks a lot. My question goes to Kurigo. You were talking about content. I mean, content itself is nothing new. I mean, like, we always talk about stories. It's 5,000 years old. So, because you said that content is actually the glue that keeps the channels together, I would say, I mean, the channels define what the content has to be. For example, if I look at Instagram and co. So, I mean, the concept of content marketing is actually nothing new. It's just, I mean, that it has now been more complex due to the channels that we see. Is that, how would you see that? Is that wrong? Or do you think that content marketing now has evolved to a completely new level that we haven't seen before? I mean, like, just in terms of stories and the content itself.
Well, first of all, that something is new or old doesn't mean it doesn't work, right? I mean, old stuff can work very well. And of course, storytelling, telling great stories and putting them on a journey, obviously is a human basic thing that we find since human beings tell stories to each other. That's why it's a well-functioning, great mechanism also to transport brand messages. And I think, yes, there is, especially in digital, there is if you want, a renaissance of content. Using content and media in marketing is a paradigm that is probably being rediscovered. Especially because it's actually moving away from campaigning into a more sustained conversation that goes over time, from a consumer to a customer, over the customer life cycle. And it basically forces companies to tell coherent stories across, let's say, marketing silos. You cannot, in the digital world, you cannot tell a different story to employees than you tell to the outside world, than you tell in a marketing campaign, than you tell in a customer brochure. It kind of needs to have the same cover story, overall story, etc. That's one thing. And the other thing is, I think in digital, especially also if we think in terms of mobile screens, people don't want to have ads shoved on their mobile screens. They don't want to be forced to watch videos as pre-rolls. They want to have relevant content that matters to them. And they don't want to have stuff pushed into their faces that actually they don't want to see at this moment when they open up an app or something. So I think there is a shift in marketing. And we also see this if we talk to customers, CMOs, who are shifting means away from traditional classical advertising paid into more owned and earned media, which basically just means that they don't buy audiences, they create their own audiences and their own reach.
I think we're running slightly out of time, but hopefully we generate that for two more questions. One over here.
Yeah, I'll be very quick. It's actually a question for Andrea. If the prediction that Scott just gave us, that Amazon potentially could go out of business because of the shipping cost raising, what's your prediction?
I don't hear. If you can speak louder.
Louder. Okay, so if what Scott just said is true, that Amazon could go out of business because of the rising shipping cost. What's your prediction for a huge problem that the e-commerce business has in fashion and luxury, that is the returns? Meaning returns means that you have to pay round-trip shipping cost.
I didn't understand your question, really. What is the fee?
I'll do it in italiano.
Sì,
Se quello che Scott ha detto è vero.
Ecco.
Se quello che Scott ha detto è vero, che Amazon
va fuori business. No,
per un problema di costi di trasporto,
non credo.
Qual è il tuo punto di vista per quanto riguarda i ritorni, che è un grosso problema che l'e-commerce ha, e nei ritorni parliamo di andata e ritorno, di shipping cost.
Yes, see, I don't think it's a relevant problem for us because our average sale is about 500 euro. So the shipping and return, we have return from the most advanced market, which means US and Germany and UK, because they are used to buy and return, and it's normal. We accept it with a smile. There is no problem. You know, the percentage of shipping and return cost is irrelevant once you have a 500 euro average sale. It is very relevant when you have a 20,000, 30,000, but for us it's not relevant, it's not a problem.
And just to be clear, I think Amazon is going to open stores a long time before they go out of business. The prediction is they're opening stores. And Melissa keeps signaling me. And a quick plug, we're hosting a workshop on the digital IQ of watch and jewelry brands on the 6th floor. If you're interested in attending, case studies, best practices around some of the brands we're talking about, follow Melissa at the end of the session. Sorry for the interruption.
One more question over here.
Hello? Okay. All right. This is Nora Abusted from Collabora. I have a question for Tracy. So I'm particularly interested in what you learned from the different kinds of advertising formats. I've seen a lot of different advertising in my feed. When it started, there was a lot of bad comments, really nasty, using a lot of F words from the users that were very upset about seeing certain kinds of ads, especially pictures, Lexus, and so on. And then there were some video ads that worked a bit better. But what's your experience working with what kind of format and how brands are reacting to that extremely negative feedback?
So it depends on what you're talking about in terms of ads that are actually sponsored and put there by Instagram and a brand, or just brands sending you commercial messages in your feed, because I think there's a lot of bad reaction to overly commercial messages in people's feed. In fact, actually, the response that we've found has been wholly positive to advertising. So with every campaign that we've run, and we've only run campaigns in the US and the UK, so if you're a user in either of those markets, you may have seen advertising. And we run a Nielsen brand effect study, and we also track sentiment with ads. And we also, before we launch ads in market, we engage with the community. And we send messages to let people know that we're going to be releasing ads on the platform. We also work really, really closely with the brands that are running advertising. We want every ad on Instagram to be inspirational, tell a story, and be curated the same way as someone would their own feed. And yeah, of course, when people see advertising in a platform where they're not used to, they're not happy about it, but they're much happier to see an ad than to pay for a service that allows them to curate and share photographs. So you always see mixed responses, and then when people get used to it, and we've seen this on any emerging platform, but on the whole, the response from the community has been incredibly positive from what we've seen. And the results that we're seeing in terms for a brand, in terms of lift, recall, awareness, message association, are 2 times higher what Nielsen normally see on other channels. Some of that's because it's new, but some of it's because of the receptive mode that are people in. So we really haven't seen a lot of negative feedback. Some of the negative feedback we have seen, though, is where someone's following a brand and they're seeing a lot of text heavy, but then they simply just unfollow or are disengaged.
I'm getting more and more anxious signals that we should stop, but I think we have time for one more question. Or we make time for one more question.
Thank you very much, Barry O'Dowd from Dublin. I had a very quick question for Scott. I wondered, first of all, congratulations on a fantastic tour de force in your presentation. It was brilliant.
Thank you.
Really good. Just a quick question to you, because with the 4 horsemen, I'm really intrigued with that analogy. And of course, from an Irish perspective, this is really, really important to us, because with the 4 companies, we're fortunate to have about 10,000 employees and maybe 2 billion of investment in Ireland. And
with Apple.
With the 4 of them.
With the 4 of them, excuse me.
Which one do you think we should be riding best?
The answer is yes. Thank you.
Okay, I think we're ending on a high note. Thank you very much for the interest in digital luxury, and have a good afternoon.